Israel has announced it will expand its air and ground offensive into central Gaza amid a deadly missile strike in Rafah. Russia has unleashed one of the year's biggest bombardments on Ukraine, striking several cities. At least 23 people were killed by a missile strike on a residential building in Rafah on Thursday as Israel announced it will expand its offensive into central Gaza. Hamas say more than 21,000 Palestinians have now been killed in the conflict and that they will not negotiate until airstrikes stop completely.
نؤكد أولاً انفتاح الحركة على أي أفكار أو مقترحات لوقف العدوان بشكل كامل ونهائي على شعبنا في قطاع غزة، فشعبنا لا يريد وقفاً مجتزأ أو مؤقتاً بل وقفاً كاملاً للعدوان. وهنا نؤكد أيضاً أن إدارة الشأن الفلسطيني هي قرار فلسطيني وطني داخلي.
Meanwhile, as hundreds of young people took to the streets in Tel Aviv, the Israeli military took full responsibility for 3 hostages killed by Israeli troops earlier this month.
אנחנו אחראים על מה שקרה. הצגנו למשפחות את התחקיר ואת כל הממצאים שעמדו לרשותנו. בשקיפות, תוך חתירה לאמת, הגם שהיא קשה וכואבת מאוד.
Convoys of trucks carrying much-needed aid, including fuel, drove through the Rafah crossing from Egypt into Gaza on Thursday. The deliveries were escorted by Hamas police. Russian strikes killed 3 people and wounded 9 on Thursday in 2 villages in southern Ukraine's Zaporizhia region, according to local authorities. Meanwhile, in his night address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked the US Congress and President for the last batch of military aid.
Хочу подякувати за новий оборонний пакет від Сполучених Штатів, вже 34-й за цей рік і 54-й за час нашого захисту від цієї російської агресії. Я вдячний президенту Байдену, Конгресу, обом партіям та усім тим, хто підтримує нас у цілком конкретному завданні. Російський терор повинен програти. Терор завжди повинен програвати.
In Ukraine, police helicopters are now the fastest way to evacuate the wounded. To date, they have saved more than 2,500 lives. Where an evacuation vehicle cannot get through or take several hours to reach, helicopters save precious time.
Bulgaria and Romania have received permission to join Europe's passport and visa-free Schengen Area. Starting in March, the governments of the 2 countries confirmed. The move will initially apply only to travelers arriving by air and sea.
După 13 ani de așteptări, avem în sfârșit un acord politic. Acesta urmează să fie pus în practică în scurt timp. Ridicarea granițelor aeriene și maritime din martie 2024 reprezintă un drept câștigat după lungi negocieri.
Тези преговори ще са съчетани с съществена подкрепа от страна на Европейската комисия за защита на външните граници на Европейския съюз с Турция и Сърбия, за да намалим притока на нелегални мигранти към Европа.
Austria had previously blocked their entrance into the Schengen area, but now say they wanted to continue negotiations over the need for border checks when crossing from the 2 countries by land.
The cleanup has begun on Danish beaches after dozens of containers were lost at sea due to stormy weather. A Maersk ship lost 46 containers off the northern Jutland coast just before Christmas, whilst en route from Bremerhaven to Gdansk. Now, everything from fridges, needles and shoes are adrift at sea. Maersk said containers were lost due to rough weather.
Vi er rigtig kede af situationen. Vi tager fuldt ansvar, og vi er der, indtil der er ryddet op. Men det oprydningsarbejde, det skal foregå sammen med de lokale myndigheder, som har kendskaben.
The containers were thought to be adrift between Hanstholm and Skagen off the coast of northern Jutland. Local fishermen are worried about bumping into containers and other fragments. Locals have been warned by authorities not to touch anything that washes ashore. The incident happened when Storm Pia hit Denmark coasts earlier this week.
As the fallout from the Israel-Hamas war continues to be felt, a rise in Islamophobic and anti-Semitic incidents has gripped the continent with recent attacks in Paris and Brussels. Israel's Ministry for Diaspora Affairs said there was a 500% spike in global anti-Semitic incidents during the first 3 weeks of the conflict.
The first thing that we are doing is monitoring social networks, Meta, and not just Meta, to understand, like, to create a map of war, or where are the most dangerous places with the amount of anti-Semitism on social network.
In Europe, in the wake of the Hamas attack on Israel on 7th October, some pro-Palestinian rallies have been authorized. But in Germany, authorities banned those gatherings, claiming there is an imminent danger that the assemblies will result in inciting anti-Semitic slogans.
We live in Europe here, we live in Berlin, but actually we have German police patrolling us, searching our houses, interrogating us, racially profiling us.
Berlin police responded by saying police measures are not based on people's appearance, but rather on their behavior. In November, the French Muslim Council reported receiving dozens of letters with threats or insults, and 14 mosques have been vandalized.
Data are underestimated, underrecorded, underreported, and the phenomenon is not well understood in some member states. In addition, Muslim people, or people perceived to be Muslims, are usually trusting less authorities, so they may also go less to report incidents.
Since 7th October, Jewish students have been describing a hostile atmosphere in universities in France and other European countries. The EU believes that social networks have a part to play.
We have to acknowledge that a lot of hatred has been transported and has been left unchallenged for a very long time on social platforms. And we need to make sure that they adhere to the rules that now apply in the EU.
Ja, eigentlich ist Nordmazedonien von der Sonne verwöhnt. Da sollte ein Ausstieg aus der dreckigen Kohle einfach sein. Doch wegen der Energiekrise geschieht hier genau das Gegenteil. Uralte Kohlekraftwerke blasen Unmengen von Schadstoff in die Luft. Schafft es Nordmazedonien mit der Energiewende? Gibt es überhaupt noch einen Hoffnungsschimmer? Eine Recherche hier vor Ort in der Kohlegrube für euronews.just-in.
Пета светска криза, знаете дека се помести сите рокови, каде што сега сме во тек да отвориме и трет рудник, живојно, така што за наредните 30 години би имале доволно јаглен да работи нашата термоелектрана.
This will completely destroy the coal exit strategy. The closure date needs to remain 2030. If the EU accession does happen, I think that we will have to close the power plants before we accede.
When the last coal mine, when the last coal power plant will shut down?
Во Македонија мислам дека е предвидено по стратегијата за енергетика негде 2030 година да се затворат сите јагленови копови.
Cosa accade lungo le frontiere interne europee quando quelle esterne sono sotto pressione a causa dell'aumento dei flussi di migranti? Ovvero quando Lampedusa è al collasso, cosa accade a Ventimiglia, la porta occidentale d'Italia verso il nord Europa? Per capirlo sono venuta proprio a Ventimiglia, al confine tra Italia e Francia.
L'ultimo 15 chilometri sono una violenza psicologica e morale soprattutto da parte dell'Europa nei confronti di gente che ormai non può tornare indietro. Vous avez pas beaucoup de bagages, no? Tutti, nessuno escluso, se sono arrivati fino in frontiere, sono stati refusés dalla polizia francese, vogliono tornare in stazione per ritentare.
Là, on est aux alentours de 80 interpellations quotidiennes, le record étant 300 interpellations dans la même journée.
È una strage continua, silente, che ovviamente non ha le proporzioni di quella del Mediterraneo, ma che purtroppo avviene qui anche al centro dell'Europa.